So this is part 3, and sorry that just kind of ended abruptly. My countdown on the computer kind of stopped, so I didn't know how much time I had left. So picking up with the second part of this, that mistakes coaches made, giving too much or not enough responsibility, failing to reinforce and educate. Again, you have a prescribed, an appointed leader, or emerged leader, or leaders, that rose to the top and took charge. Regardless of which one it is, the coach needs to provide the resources for the captain and leaders to succeed. So 4 components. A study was conducted in 2003. It focused on various activities of leader athletes, as well as influences of others on their leadership development. And these 4 central components were the cornerstone of leadership development through sport. Development of a high skill, a strong work ethic, good rapport with people, enriched tactical knowledge. So they use a multidimensional group to come up with these components, meaning the researchers didn't look at one perspective. Think about it. A coach may see a good leader. A parent may see a very unhappy person at home because the duties are too much. And so it takes into account all of these different roles. So we're back to the different approaches to studying leadership. In the 1970s, another approach came around, the situational approach. Those under this approach argued that leadership characteristics are not as important as commonly thought. These people felt leadership depended much more on the characteristics of the situation than it did on the traits or behaviors of the leaders. This approach suggests that leaders have less power over the situation than they think. The differences between candidates who become leaders are reduced through the selection, and that differences between leaders are negated by situational demands. Few contemporary leadership researchers endorse this approach in and by itself. But this approach is not widely endorsed, but it's important in facilitating our understanding of leadership because it showed that situational factors and features have a major influence on leader success. The interactional approach. It simply means that at least 2 things are interacting together to create an outcome. In this case, we are looking at the interaction between the behavior and the trait. Trait and behavioral approaches emphasize personal traits, while not considering the interaction between people and situations. Most researchers today have abandoned the debate between person or situation in favor of dealing with the concepts that are capable of dealing with both differences in situations and differences in leaders. This is where the interactional approach comes in. Personal and situational factors need to be considered. The implications. No one set of characteristics ensures successful leaders. Effective leadership styles or behaviors fit the specific situation. And leadership and leadership styles can be changed. Relationship and task-oriented. The relationship task-oriented leader develops interpersonal relationships, keeps lines of communication open, maintain positive social interactions, ensures that everyone is involved and feeling good. The task-oriented leader primarily works to get the task done and meet the objectives. They are interested in initiating structure function. What will it take for us to reach our goals? You can see that each are very different, and one is not better than the other. It would be very difficult for either one to lead their team in a cohesive manner and still win a championship, unless they migrate a little bit towards the middle. The keys are to have someone who is relationship-oriented to be able to lead when there's a tough task ahead, and to have a task-oriented approach to accomplish a very difficult task while still keeping the team cohesion and relationships strong. Or better yet, you can have more than one leader on a team, and at the right time, that person can step up, take charge when their personality fits the situation better. And the other leader can step down and make it happen. So having co-leaders. There are two types of sport-oriented interactional approaches to leadership. In the cognitive mediation model, this is a model of leadership behavior that emphasizes relationships among variables, situations, cognition, behaviors, and individual differences. Another way to state what the cognitive mediation model of leadership says is players' attitudes to their coaches and sport experience are affected by their perception and recall of coaches' behaviors, which means the player's perception of the coach's behaviors have the effect of the coach's behavior on the players. So what is their perception? A coach may be doing everything right, but if a player perceives the coach's behavior to be negative, the player will probably still respond, but negatively towards the coach's behavior. But still, there is the matter of how the player perceives the coach's behavior. It's the entire process between the coach's behaviors and the player's reactions. So it's affected by situational and differences between the two. The cognitive mediational model. The coach leadership behaviors are a function of their own personal characteristics, which are mediated by situational factors and the meaning athletes attribute to those coaching behaviors. So things that happen prior to another person's behavior or in discussing parenting, things that could make a parent go off or to make the parent praise their own kid. In sports, we look at it as when a player does something good or bad, how does the coach react to the behavior? And then the player perceives the action one way or another. and that may affect how the athlete behaves the next time. So for that reason, the coaching behavior assessment system was created. So players' perception of the coach behaviors mediate the effort of the coach behaviors on player responses. This entire process is affected by the situational factors and coach-player individual differences. So the coaching behavior assessment system was developed that stemmed out of the cognitive mediational model, recording the behaviors of the coach as either reactive or spontaneous. So, as this study was done by Schmoll and Smith, conducting sport psychology training programs for coaches, the cognitive behavior principles and techniques. Players rate their teammates in sport more positively when they have coaches who use high amounts of general technical instruction. So there's over 25 years of research in this. How do the coaches react? What do they do? And then again, that perception of the athlete. Some behavioral guidelines. Don't give corrective feedback in a hostile, demeaning, or harsh manner. Establish clear expectations. Use positive reinforcement. Don't constantly nag or threaten athletes to prevent chaos. Do use encouragement selectively. Make it meaningful. And do provide technical instruction in a clear, concise manner and demonstrate how to perform the skill whenever possible. And we're going to stop number 3 here, or number 4 here.